Hello there, my name is Jonathan and this is Jonathan's Days, where normally I have a podcast about my knitting and things I get up to in the whole fibre and yarn world, but today it's different because it's a new year and I wanted to go through and share everything that I knit in 2021. So these are kind of videos that I love to watch, and I love to watch people kind of go through like all the old jumpers that they've made and things like that. So I thought I would throw my hat in the ring and make my own everything I've knit in 2021 video. I've been very excited to make this video, and I didn't think I had made that much until I actually went back and like pulled everything out together. And now that everything's together, I'm like, oh my god, it is so much stuff. So I'm pretty proud of myself. I'm gonna go through pretty quick. If you watch the podcast normally, most of this stuff you'll have seen already. If this is your first time, then you're going to be caught up really quickly with everything I've made. And even if you do watch the podcast, I only started the podcast about 6 months ago, so you'll see things from the beginning of the year that you wouldn't have seen before unless you check my Ravelry or Instagram. Anyway, let's jump in. We're going to move pretty quickly. I'm not going to go into that much detail about things. I'm going to tell you how it's held up because, you know, I've been using them for quite a few months. If I would make the pattern again, if there are any changes I'm going to make to things. So those are the kind of things that I want to touch on as I run through everything. And yeah, if you've any questions, throw them down in the comments. I'm always happy to chat down there. And I've put it into 4 different categories. So there's shawls, socks, jumpers, and accessories. So that's how we're going to run through it. Let's start with shawls. Okay, so the first shawl that I cast off in 2021 is actually fitting if you're new here because it tells you a bit about my knitting story. This shawl, I cast it off in 2021, but I cast it on in 2011. So I learned to knit over 10 years ago now. And I'm from Ireland and I live in London. When I first moved to London, I didn't have a job, so I was unemployed and I wanted a project and something to keep me busy. So I taught myself how to knit on YouTube, and I was knitting for about a year before I cast this on, which was my second ever shawl. So this is the shawl. This is the Daybreak by Stephen West, and it is made of, I'll have everything on the screen, but it is made out of Malabrigo sock. And the colors I can't think of off the top of my head, but they'll be on the screen. So this is back in the day, this was the shawl pattern. Everyone was making this. And I cast it on, and it was probably like the smallest needle and smallest project I'd ever done. And it was taking me ages. And for some reason I put it down and I didn't pick it up again until 10 years later. So you wouldn't be able to see, but it is, I don't even think I had stripes left to do. I think I was done with the stripes. Maybe it was just the edging. And you can see it's a really sheer yarn. You can see me through it. I love the colors. I don't really wear it that often. It's really light. And I blocked it. I didn't have enough pins or wires to block it, so it's got like a kind of a scalloped edge, so I might re-block it. But it is pretty nice. It's really small and thin. Like, it's not like a warm shawl. But yeah, so that was the first shawl I cast off in 2021, and most of the work was done, but it was something that I kind of challenged myself to finish this if I really wanted to kind of get back into knitting properly. So that was that. That's the Daybreak by Stephen West. That's the first shawl. And then the next one is the Kinship. This is also by Stephen West with Olga Jazzy Knits on Instagram. Olga, she's an amazing designer of geometric construction knitting, and she's just fabulous, and I love her knits and her patterns. And this was actually my first knit along that I did, was this. So this was the Kinship of Friends knit along, which Michael from Piece for Piece Crafting hosted. This is knit up in Garthenor Preseli. I can't think of the colors, they'll be on the screen. It was a long time ago. But I love this shawl, I wear it a lot. It's like a semicircular one. So honestly, when I put it on, I don't really wear it this way. I tend to throw it over my shoulders like this. I like the way it sits like this. So yeah, so that was my second shawl of the year. and I like it a lot. It's beautiful. Beautiful, beautiful, really cool construction. So yeah, and a pleasure to knit. This was the smaller of the two sizes. It was in Pom Pom Quarterly, and it's the smaller of the two sizes, and I would absolutely knit it again, but the bigger size, probably. Cool, so that's the second shawl. Third shawl. This shawl I feel is kind of special because halfway through the year in the summer I kind of hit a block or lost my knitting mojo, and I just kind of wasn't happy with anything I was making, and this shawl kind of kicked it back, brought it back up for me. So this is my Moonwhistle. This is by Andrea Mowry, and it is my first Andrea Mowry pattern that I ever made, and it will not be the last, you'll see. So this is knit using Spincycle, so that's the color changing one you can see here, and it's the color Castaway, so Spincycle Dream State, which is their like worsted sport weight. They're thicker of the two yarns that they make, and so you can see it changes from kind of a blue to a orange to a grey. So I did it with an orange and grey stripe, and the orange and grey stripe is West Yorkshire Spinners, the Croft, and I can't think of the colour names, but they will be on the screen. Some of the colour names I'll remember. But yeah, so it's like super, so this is 100% my most worn shawl of the year. I wear it all the time. When I'm at home, I just throw it on, and I absolutely love it. Absolutely love it. It's my number one fave. And my battery is dying, so I'll be right back. Sorry about that. So yes, so this was the Moonwhistle shawl. It's a super squishy, amazing shawl that I wear all the time. I wear it out, I wear it at home. It's fabulous, and I absolutely love it. So can't recommend this pattern and these yarns enough. They held up really, really well. I need to weave them in a bit better on the other side, but other than that, it's amazing. It's an amazing pattern, and I highly recommend it. It's super beginner friendly, a pleasure to knit, a lot of garter stitch and slip stitches, so I highly recommend that one. And then my last shawl of the year was one I was really, really looking forward to, and it is the Opus shawl. So this is the Opus shawl by Maxim Cyr, Max the Knitter, and it is knit in Walcot Yarns Opus. And this was another knit along I did. Let me toss it on. I tend to I put my shawls on the same way with kind of, because it's the same shape as the Moonwhistle, so it kind of kicks to the side. And yeah, I love this. It's super soft, super graphic yarn. It's held up pretty well. It's kind of, you can see it's on the verge of doing a little bit of pilling, but nothing major that kind of requires me to do any kind of shaving or gleaning of it. But yeah, I like it a lot. This one I tend to wear always to the front because it's not quite big enough to comfortably put over my shoulders, I find. But I think that's my fault. I didn't block it, kind of stretch it enough as much as I could have. So I can always do that again if I want. But I love this pattern, and even the back is like interesting. It's another slip stitch pattern, so I think it's like pretty beginner friendly. If you wanted to try it, I highly recommend it. It's great. So cool. That's the Opus by Max, and it won't be the last won't be the last Max pattern we see today. But yes, so those are all my shawls that I made this year. So it was 4 shawls, if you can count. So pretty decent. Most of them took me probably a month or so to make. But yeah, so let's move on to socks. Okay. So, socks. So, disclaimer, I've worn all these socks. I'm wearing these socks. I use my socks. I use all my knits. I don't just knit them and never wear them. Like, I'm hard on my knits. They're made to be used and loved and worn, so they're not all going to look beautiful and pretty, and I'm not going to pull out my sock blocker to show you these. But I will start by saying most of these don't have a pattern. If they did have a pattern, it would be Summer Lee's basic sock pattern, and she has the pattern that I use to teach myself to make socks, and she has like video tutorials, and her pattern is amazing. So once I kind of figured out the construction of a sock, that I don't really use a pattern, but that if there was one I would point to, that would be the pattern I would point to. But socks wise this year, so I'll start with just kind of the vanilla ones. So these are a pair of super vanilla socks. These would have definitely been the Summerlee pattern. And I had made some mistakes in this, so my heel could have been a bit deeper, but I did contrast toes, heels and cuffs. It would have been top down, and this would have been Quince Co Finch. So that's these ones. The other ones, so this is also Quince Co Finch. These would have been toe up, and so the pattern this might have been a shadow wrap heel, possibly. So if I was to say I used a pattern, it would have been that by Earth Tones Girl using her shadow wrap heel tutorial. So that's those ones, which is Finch. So the Finch, I will say, if you can see kind of on the ball of the foot, it's felting. I haven't got any holes, like it feels like it's felting into strength, if that makes sense, rather than felting into weakness. So yeah, they are both like just vanilla socks. And yeah, then the next vanilla sock is this one. This is in Mondim. This is also, I've worn these quite a bit. They're not really felting that much, just a little. Doing better than the Finch. I don't think the Quince Co Finch is designed to be a sock yarn, whereas this is like meant to be a sock yarn. So it's super comfortable though. I like this yarn better than the Finch. And then these two are, again, no pattern. These are just like ribbed socks, like 2x2 rib, I believe. Yeah, so these both are Garthenor Pentland, which I think is technically a sport weight rather than these are all fingering weight, but I think this is technically a sport weight, but I use it like a fingering. And these have held up super, super well. They don't seem to be really felting at all. They just seem to be getting stronger and stronger, and they wear really, really well. They feel tough in your hands. So this is the blue one, which I think is Mediterranean is the color. And then this is the red one, which is Sweeny is the color. So they're both marled yarns. And yeah, so I love these. I wear these all, in fact, these are going on my feet in a second. So as soon as I'm done with this, these are going on my feet and I'm out the door. I got things to do. So yeah, so these are 2x2 rib socks. Just vanilla, just using kind of, once I figured out what my stitch count that fit my foot really well, it's super easy to kind of mix and match between toe up, bottom up, toe up, top down socks, and just kind of playing around with heels and toes and different constructions. Once you start with socks and you kind of get into it, then the world is your oyster. You can have a ton of fun, and I'm no exception. These are really kind of beaten up a little bit, but yeah, so these are two of the ones that actually I can point to a pattern. So these are the Twisty Bois. These are also made in Quince Co Finch, and they're really bobbling rather than felting. I don't know, I'm going to spend ages picking at them. But yeah, they're really cool. I like them. It's like a fun cable pattern on your foot. And yeah, I really, really enjoyed these. I need to do more pattern socks, I think. And then the last pair, which is probably it is the most recent pair that I ever cast off, are these ones, which are the Curio socks, which is by Andrea Mowry. And you can see they are color changing. So this is actually Castaway in the dyed in the wool base, and then in the shawl, the Moonwhistle shawl, it was Castaway in the Dream State base. So this is the smaller gauge base by Spincycle. And these are just fantastic. These are toe up, and I love them. And then the contrast color, not the contrast color, the main color, the toes, heels, and the band going up is Mondim. Rosario Rosa Primar Mondim sock yarn. So I love these socks. They're super comfortable. They're a joy to make. I have another pair already on the needles. Stay tuned to the next podcast episode and I will talk about those. But yeah, they're great. They look cool. They look like they match, but they're not matchy. And I absolutely love them. So yeah. So those are the socks. It's a lot of socks. How many socks? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So 7 pairs of socks that I made last year. And if you watch the podcast, you know I'm always making socks. Socks are a constant for me. I'm never not making socks. So they're portable, they're enjoyable, there's variety, they keep you interested. So yeah, I love socks. So yes, so that's socks. Next, let's do accessories. Okay, so let's start with the first thing I ever finished this year, which are my Selbu Mittens. So these are by Ellie, who's Skeindeer Knits. She also has a podcast here on YouTube. This was my first color work. Yeah, this is my first color work pattern I ever did. I made it in Brooklyn Tweed Arbor, and if I remember correctly, the navy is Sachiko and the grey is Heron, I believe. They're not perfect, but they were a super enjoyable knit. I just, with knitting, just throw yourself into it. Just try. And, I've come out with something I can wear. It's not perfect, and a knitter would probably be like, that's wrong, but I still love them, and they're still wearable and usable. I'm going to use them. So, highly recommend the pattern. Ellie does amazing. Ellie's Norwegian. She lives in London as well, but she does amazing Norwegian. I want to say Norwegian style, but because she's Norwegian, they're just Norwegian. But really wearable, fantastic garments, and I love these. I wear them all the time, and I wear them, if it's really cold, I wear another glove underneath them. They're perfect for that. So yeah, I would definitely make them again. I've learned new techniques for color work, so I'd probably have better tension, and the yarn Brooklyn Tweed Arbor I've used before, so I can recommend that as well. What else do I say about these? Yeah, mittens. You gotta have a pair of mittens. So that's those. Then next, this is my hatch hat. This is a pattern by Brooklyn Tweed, and the yarn is Brooklyn Tweed Arbor, the same as the mittens. I'm not going to try on all these hats because it'll ruin my hair and I'm vain like that, but I actually knit these I didn't have the correct needle size, so I went up a needle size, and it is a bit big, it is a bit loose, so I would definitely make it again, and in fact I have yarn to make it again, but if I did make it again, I would use the correct needle size. So yeah, so this is it. It's like a ribbed, but the rib changes, so it's got a bit of interest. It's really, really nice. I still wear it all the time. It's super, super comfy, and I think it looks nice on me. So yeah, so that's my two Brooklyn Tweed Arbor. Let's keep the Brooklyn Tweed going. So this is the next one. So this is my Skipp Hat. This was my first time trying brioche, and I have an end is popping out, but yeah. So this is in Brooklyn Tweed Loft. The colors are Pumice and Tartan. So Tartan is the blue and Pumice is the grey. Fun thing about brioche is that this is 2-color brioche. You can turn it inside out and wear it the other way. It's a nice pattern. I think it's good if you're wanting to learn brioche. It's a good pattern. And people say it's difficult. It's not difficult. I think 2-color is great to learn on because you can really tell the difference between the stitches. So that would be my only recommendation. But like with anything in knitting, as long as you can knit and purl and yarn over for brioche, which is just bringing your yarn over the needle, you can do it. So highly recommend the pattern. I haven't worn this a lot actually. I'm not sure why, but I do recommend the pattern for learning brioche, and this is the only brioche project I did all year, and I want to do more this year in 2022. So yeah, so highly recommend. That's the hatch hat. That is Brooklyn Tweed pattern as well. And then hats, let's keep going. I have my 2 Musselburgh hats. This is the adult large, this is the adult medium. I've done, the grey is in Garthenor Preseli in the heron colour. I think this was left over from my Kinship shawl. And then inside is Hedgehog Fibers Cashmerino. So this is the construction. You knit a big tube and you put one end inside the other, and that's what makes your hat. I've talked about these hats so much, so I'm not going to talk about them too much more, but it just makes them most kind of great, basic, comfortable beanie. It's the perfect gift knit. In the pattern they say do 1 color, but I did 2 so that it can be lined with super soft cashmerino. And then the navy on this is knitting for olive. And yeah, they're great. This one is my boyfriend's and this one is mine, and yeah, we've worn them most of the winter. They're starting to bobble a little bit because we wear them so much. But yeah, highly recommend the pattern. For gifts, it's a no-brainer. So highly recommend these. This is the muscle bar hats. Then next is my other colorwork project of the year, which you would have seen. Let me find the back. It's hard to find the back. So this is the Snowfield Cowl by Max the Knitter, Maxim Cyr. This was in Lina magazine. It's now available as a single pattern, but it's a colorwork cowl. I've worn this tons. It's super wearable, super fun pattern. It's a great piece to have. It helped me learn a lot about color work, and it is knit up in Opus. Again, I use the Opus, the color, the greenery color, and then the white is Ching Fibers Melted Baby Surrey in the color Platinum, I believe, yeah. Love this pattern. It's a super wearable garment that's really striking and cool, reversible. You can probably even put a twist on it. I think on the cover of the magazine it's got a twist, but yeah, absolutely love it. Absolutely love it. Looks great on the camera. So yeah, and I like the original one is a different color. I like the Snowfield, and I did green because Ireland. So yeah. And then my last accessory is kind of a different one. So this is my French market bag by Petite Knit. It's got leather straps, which I put on, and it is knit in Ito yarns. This is Gima 8.5 in the color grey. I need to restitch my lining on because I lined it with some fabric. But yeah, this is, I haven't used it a lot in the winter. I think it's more of a summer bag, but it was something completely different for me, something I'd never done before. I'd never sewn before. So it was a really cool item to do that with. So yeah, I highly recommend that. It's a cool, it's not crochet, it's knitted. So if you're a knitter and you want to make a knitted bag, not, you know, because usually you can make market bags that are crochet, but this is a knitted one. So I highly recommend it if you've got some, I had no sewing skills, so if you've even got rudimentary sewing skills, you can definitely make it. It was a fun project that I did in the summer because I didn't want to have like something big and bulky to knit. So I made that, which was really cool. It was my first time knitting with cotton, I believe. But it, like, you know, it doesn't have stretch like wool does, so it was great fun to well, learn how to use another material to knit with. So yeah, so that was a French market bag by Petite Knit, and that is all of my accessories. So it was what, 4 hats, pair of gloves, cowl, and a bag. So yeah, I think it was a nice fun variety of things. Okay, and now we're going to move on to jumpers / sweaters. And yes, it is a week later. The light has changed. My hair has grown. It's a slightly different black t-shirt, but I had to stop recording last week. So this is shot over a couple of days. So we'll just crack on with jumpers / sweaters, whatever you prefer to call them. The first sweater I made in 2021 is this one. This is the Flax Light by Tin Can Knits. It is made in Brooklyn Tweed Loft in the color Tartan, and it was my 3rd ever jumper overall, and it was my first top-down jumper, and it was my first fingering weight jumper. Before that I had done worsted weight for the first 2, and I think I just wanted to have like a really like time-consuming project almost, with just a lot of stockinette. So that's why I wanted to do a fingering weight. And this is it. I love the color. Love the color. The color is very me. The yarn is wonderful. It is a woolen spun, I believe, yarn. So it's like really light and warm. I do not wear this at all. It was a huge learning experience for me, and I've mentioned it in probably my first or second podcast if I talked about it. And yeah, so I don't wear it. The neck is like really boat necky, and just the general shape of it isn't kind of what it should be. I think it was the wrong yarn choice for the project, and I definitely like learned tons and tons and tons, which was great, but it is going to be frogged this year and turned into a Wool and Honey by Andrea Mowry, which is designed in loft and actually will require a lot of modifications for kind of the shape I would want it to be. So it's interesting that I'm going to use the yarn on a project that I should have modified on a project that I will have to modify a lot. But that's the joy and fun of knitting. You will always learn something, and this isn't lost. You know, I can use this, like this won't be thrown away. This is beautiful yarn. It's still great yarn, so I can frog the whole thing and make something else. It's the wonderful thing about the craft. So yeah, and I do recommend the pattern. People, like, it's a hugely popular pattern. It's a great like first sweater, top-down sweater construction pattern, so I highly recommend. But yeah, this yarn wasn't the right choice, and I didn't like the neckline and all that. So yeah, that was that. The next one I did was another fingering weight, and this is where I kind of, I guess, fell in love with fingering, or well, with garment knitting in general. So this is my So Basic sweater by Maxim Cyr, Max the Knitter. I think, was this my first Max pattern that I ever knit? Possibly. So this one is knit in Garthenor Preseli in the color Elderberry, I believe. And it is just a super basic, simple sweater. It's mostly stockinette except for the sleeves, which has the odd pearl bump, which creates like a stripe down the length of the sleeve. I wear this a ton. I probably will make another one this year. I'm thinking maybe doing stripes, horizontal stripes in one. The only thing is that I would make the arms longer, and I'm going to talk more about that when I move into further projects. But I loved the construction. It's probably where I fell in love with Max's patterns and Max's attention to detail in the patterns that he makes. And I wear this a ton. The yarn is, I think I've gleaned it once or twice. Let me get my eye out of the shot. I don't know if you'll be able to see. There is some pilling, like a decent amount of pilling, but that's kind of, it actually looks pretty good in the camera. But you know, I don't really mind pilling too much. I have different things that I can use to kind of shave them off. And I wear my knits. I've spent hours and hours and hours making these things. Of course I'm going to wear them, and I really enjoy wearing them. This one is super warm. It's super soft. Garthenor is an organic yarn brand made here in the UK, and I use it all the time, and I love it. It's absolutely wonderful. So I highly recommend, if you want a like super simple basic pattern. It's explained really well, so the pattern is explained really well, so it probably could be your first sweater pattern. Could be this one for sure. Then next I went to the other half of the wonderful Les Garçons couple, to Vincent, and I made the Beauceron. This one is, again, all the rest of my sweaters are going to be top down, and this is also knit in Garthenor, but this is in their Beacons base, which is a DK, versus the Preseli, which is a fingering. And I love this sweater. I love this. I love all my sweaters, but I love this one a lot. The construction is fantastic. I felt like it was a real achievement when I finished this. It's mosaic color work for the yoke. It's not perfect. I made some mistakes, but it's okay. They're only things that a knitter would notice up close. Most people think it's a store-bought garment, which is wonderful. The colors are marble and holly, I believe, so it is a deep green, which I really like. It's super wearable, super, like, it's, you know, not so out there that it's kind of hard to like style, but it still has some interest in this yoke. Would I make this again? Maybe I would. Yeah, maybe I would make it with like a color changing for the contrast color, so that the color would change as it goes down. Maybe would be cool. And it's this one I haven't gleaned that much, so you probably will be able to see quite a decent amount of pilling from the Beacons yarn. I could literally just sit here picking off pills all day, but I'm not going to do that. We're busy. We have stuff to do. But, you know, it's one of those things like the softer the yarn, the more it pills. So, you know, you have to put up with it. You can't have this super, super soft yarn and not have pilling. So it's kind of the trade-off you have. But I love this. I would definitely make it again. I mentioned in my podcast, it is a lot of counting, so I wouldn't recommend it as your first sweater project. But if you want to kind of dip your toe into mosaic color work, it's done super, super well. And you do kind of hit a rhythm with it, and it creates the most like beautiful, interesting fabric. So I highly, highly recommend that. So this is the Beauceron by Vincent, also known as Designs by Dells or Dye by Dells. We'll get to that later. Then the next one I made is it my favorite? I mean, they're all my favorites, like picking favorite children. This is the Anchor Sweater, my boyfriend's size, by Petite Knit. And this is knit up in Sandnes Garn Peer Gynt, which is the yarn that is suggested in the pattern. It is a pretty simple. It's just ribbing here on the yoke and then stockinette on the bottom. It is, I guess I could say it's probably the most flattering sweater I own. Like, I feel like I look so good in it. Like if I'm, you know, and you can just, it's so wearable, so easy to style it. You can like wear it with like really funky trousers. I've worn it with dungarees, just a pair of jeans. Like, it looks so good. And I think this yoke, because it's ribbing, flatters like anyone and like shows off your shoulders, I suppose is the best way to describe it. And I wear this is probably my most worn sweater. I wear this probably twice a week easily. I'm going to be making my boyfriend one in the beginning of the year, because I didn't make him a sweater at all last year, and I made him a sweater the previous year. So this year he's going to get this one, because it's one of the ones, like, you know, he's always like, oh yeah, I like that one, but this one he's like, oh my god, I love this one, this one's so nice. So he'll be made one of these. I forgot to mention, I cannot think of what size I made for the Flax Light, but the fit was all wrong, so who cares. But for the So Basic and the Beauceron, it's usually size 3. All of my sizes are size 3. I usually go for around a 40-inch chest circumference, which I can't think of what it is in centimeters right now. But that's what I go for, which gives me, I think my chest is about 40 inches. It's like 39, 40 inches depending on the day. And I like my sweaters with little to no negative ease. I like them to be quite fitted, so that's usually the size I go for. But yeah, but this, because it's the my boyfriend size version, which is I guess the more masculine, sized version of the pattern. I don't have the original version, so I can't kind of tell you what the difference is between the two, but this is the extra small in this size, in the boyfriend size pattern. So this is the smallest, and I got gauge, so this is the smallest version of that. So it's one of those things, if you have I'm 5'11" on a good day, so yeah, I would kind of beware of that if your partner is like slimmer than me, or if you want to make it for yourself and you're kind of seem slimmer than me or shorter than me, you might just get the original version of the pattern and knit the appropriate size for you, because this is the smallest size in the boyfriend size version. What I will say about it is that this garment also helped me discover what my preferred measurements are when it comes to kind of from the underarm to the waist and the length of the sleeves. When I was knitting this, I thought the sleeves would be way too long, but they're actually perfect. So now every garment moving forward, I use the measurements of this as my, when you knit a top down, they say, knit to do your desired length for the body or the sleeves. This is the measurements I use, and they're kind of like my golden measurements of this. The yarn is held up super, super well. There's like a minimal pilling, not a lot at all. It feels so sturdy, and it's like, it's Norwegian wool, but it's not superwash, but it's not, I wouldn't call it prickly or itchy or anything like that. I'm not super sensitive at all to kind of rustic yarns, as most people will know, but if you're looking for like a gift or you want to make your partner their first sweater and avoid the curse, I would recommend this one. Just make sure they pick the color of yarn is what I would always advise. So yeah, anchor sweater, love it. Making it again with the same yarn, love the yarn, want to use the yarn in other things, can't recommend it enough. The next one is a real departure. I wanted to try something a bit different, a bit funkier, and this is what I made next. This is the Bubble Sweater by Stephen West. It is knitted top down. It's got a folded over neckline, lots of bubbles, and then stockinette straight down. It is twisted rib on all parts of it are all twisted ribs. And I knit this in West Yorkshire Spinners, the Croft in the DK version. So I used the worsted version in my Moonwhistle shawl, and this is the DK version. And the colors are on the screen, or have been on the screen already, because I can't remember what they are, but they're on the screen. They have strange names. I really love this color combo. I really like it. It's very different from anything else I own. I do find it a bit difficult to style or what I wear it with. So I do struggle with that, but I want to try and wear it more. And how I'm going to wear it more is I'm going to rip back and lengthen the sleeves. The sleeves are way too short. Let me tell you how I know the sleeves are way too short. Because I just told you the anchor length is perfect. This is the length of the bubble. So there's this much I need to lengthen it by at least in order for it to be a comfortable wear. Because of the construction of this bubble sweater, and I've mentioned this in the podcast, because the sleeves are too short, when I wear it, I end up pulling the sleeves down and this down, and then it creates a big tug on the neck. So I'm going to, as soon as I'm finished my current sweater project, I'm going to tackle this and rip back and lengthen the sleeves a bit, because that will mean I stop tugging, which means the neckline will move up a bit, will stop coming down. And yeah, I really enjoyed this. The construction is fantastic. It was a lot of new things for me, like with the folded over neckline, and the bubble stitch itself was new to me, and all the twisted rib. It was my first time doing twisted rib, which I quite like the look of, but it's not as elastic, I find, as a regular rib. I did slightly longer on the cuff, which is obviously going to be ripped back. So my plan is probably to rip back all the way to where I started the ribbing, obviously, and then probably make the cuff as long. So knit here and then do the cuff as long and do the twisted rib again. In general, so I always knit my sleeves with small circumference needles. I use Addi fixed needles because they've got one, I think they're the sock ones I use, and they are like little short guys, and the right needle is longer, the tip, than the left needle. For me, it's easier to hold onto the right needle because of my hands and because I'm an English style thrower when I knit, so it's easier to have a longer needle in my right hand. So I always knit, just with normal circular needles, and then for the sleeves it is small circumference circulars. And I also knit the sleeves first before the body, because I don't like getting stuck on sleeve island. So I knit the sleeves first and then do the body, so that when I finally finish the ribbing on the body, I can block it and wear it. So yeah, so I do love this. I don't wear it as much as I want to wear it, so lengthening the sleeves is really important for me to do, so I actually get more wear out of it, because I think it's just a really, really striking and fun, exciting piece, and I think the colors suit me. So yeah, so that's the Bubble Sweater by Stephen West. And then the last one is, if you followed the podcast, you would have seen it in progress, but this is the first time I've shown it in video, and this is the single malt. Oh my god, I had a brain fart there. This is the single malt by Maxim Cyr. So this is my second Max sweater pattern of 2021, and this is made in Vincent's Dyed by Dell's yarn in the British Aran base in the color Louis shade. It's kind of getting a bit, there you go, that's probably fairly accurate. It's like a deep navy. A lot of people have been knitting this pattern. I could not recommend this pattern enough.
it's basically perfect. I can't really fault anything in this patterning. It's a broken seed stitch, so you're knitting and purling one round and then just knitting straight another round, so it creates this wonderful texture. You can see there you go. That's not an accurate color, but it helps you see the texture of the stitch. There's wonderful details, like the raglan increase here is great, and then that is, if I flip the sleeve, that is mirrored the whole way along the sleeve. It's just beautiful. With all of both Max and Vincent's designs, there's always an attention to detail, and there's always, you can tell they think about the entire construction of the garment. They're not just saying, okay, just put this broken seed stitch and plug it into the numbers they know fit. Like, their designs aren't just made in a spreadsheet and sent out. They do really think about the construction of the garments. I love this. This is probably passing over the anchor sweater as my most worn. I wear it at least twice a week. The yarn is pilling a decent amount, so that, it is what it is. I would never say that's like a criticism of the yarn at all, because it's super soft, it's super cozy, it's warm, it was a pleasure to knit with. The color, I can't bang on more about Vincent's color sense. It's like, I mentioned in the podcast, this was my birthday present to myself, because my birthday was the end of December, and I wanted something in a deep navy, and then this pattern came out, and the navy yarn was the perfect partner for it. So I absolutely love it. Single malt by Max and the yarn by Vincent. Treat yourself to one, the other, or both. They're absolutely wonderful. And yeah, so that is the last sweater, the last jumper. So apart from that, I did make a ranunculus for my mom for Christmas, which was knit in Olin Mills Mara mill yarn in the color. Ooh, my nose is running. Let my face cool down a little bit. Maybe have some water. Okay. So that was all the sweaters I made in 2021. I did make a ranunculus for my mom, but that's more of like a summer t-shirt than a sweater, so I wouldn't really count that among the like full length armed sweaters that I did make the year. But I think I did cast on one more sweater, which you'll have to see in the next episode of my podcast, but I didn't expect to make so many, and I didn't expect to fall in love with garment knitting as much as I did. So I think over the year in total, making sweaters was like the main thing I did, sweaters and socks, I suppose. But I enjoyed it so much, and I think I'll always have a sweater of some sort on my needles, or at least ready to go on my needles. And that's definitely true. So 2022, we're already halfway through January of 2022, and I think it's always good to have goals and plans. I'm definitely not someone who's going to say, I'm going to make 12 jumpers this year and 10 shawls and 20 pairs of socks, because I'm not a production knitter. I don't knit to hit a number. I knit because I love it and I enjoy it so much. So I think I just want to keep making patterns that really excite me and that I'm really excited about, with colors, yarns, techniques that are really engaging and fun for me to make. That is always my goal. Knitting isn't my job, it's my joy. So I want to make sure that I do that moving forward into 2022. But there are goals that I want to do, which is I want to do some new techniques that I've never done. So I definitely want to do some intarsia for the first time. I want to make a cardigan. I want to make a summer t-shirt of some sort with maybe like a cotton or a linen. I want to do more shawls. I feel like I haven't done that many shawls, and I'm kind of in the mood for doing some more shawls. I think I've hit most garment types, maybe some gloves with fingers because I've done mittens. So yeah, those are the kind of main goals. There's a couple of techniques. I want to do more cables. I feel like I haven't done any cables in a sweater yet, so I want to do a cable sweater. I want to do a cardigan I mentioned, Tarja. But yeah, if there's anything else you can think of that is like a fun technique to learn, more brioche, yes, definitely more brioche. That one hat has not been enough. So the sky's the limit really, and I'm just excited to do more. Within the community, I want to join a knit night. Hopefully I can find somewhere to knit in London. You know, the past 2.5 years it's been difficult with restrictions, and you know, we're always trepidatious about meeting in person. So I'm hoping that things improve well enough that I can kind of find an established local knit night where I can go and knit with people in person. I want to do more within the community. I want to meet more of you guys. I want to engage more with you guys. So I'm just really excited for the next year. This channel was something I started as a place to just share what I was doing, and it's really grown into something very exciting and something that I really treasure. So thank you to all of you who've been along with the journey so far in 2021. If this is the first time you're seeing the video, you're welcome to go back and binge, but because you've gotten this far, you've kind of caught up with everything, so you're more than welcome to jump into the next episode and see how we're getting on. Leave a comment down below. I want to know what you want to do for 2022. Is there any goals you have? Do you just want to keep knitting? Do you want to clear off all your old whips? Do you want to shop your stash? Let me know what's happening with you in 2022, and if you have any suggestions of things I should try in 2022 as well, or even anything in videos you'd want me to talk about, let me know. Thank you so much for watching and commenting and liking and subscribing and finding me on Ravelry and finding me on Instagram and going to my website and looking at all the silly stuff I say on there. It's been an amazing, amazing year, and I'm so excited for 2022. I'm sure things are just going to keep on getting better. So keep your chin up. Let's keep knitting along and sharing all the good stuff as we move forward into 2022. Lots of love from Jonathan and my days in London. I hope you take care of yourself, be kind to yourself, and stay healthy and happy. Lots of love.